Now, if you are an active member of the Overwatch community, then chances are that you have already heard of the upcoming Torbjorn Rework. And even if you didn't, you could download the PTR right now and go try them out for yourself if you wanted to. Unless you're on console, in which case, feels bad, man. There's a number of things I could address coming out of the most recent developer update. Are they really just working on quality of life improvements? How do they allocate their resources when they supposedly need their entire team to do that rather than working on new content of any kind? Which they might have not directly said, but sure made it look like it. Quite frankly, the lack of meaningful new content has been a big point of contention for a while on my channel now. And a lot of you guys agreed. You got bored of the game because other than getting angry at balance patches and new heroes, there really wasn't anything new going on. But I do believe that a discussion like that is not for the faint of heart, and between me watching the dev update and me being able to work on the next video for this upload slot on Monday, there just wasn't enough time to really consider what I wanted to talk about. And honestly, as I'm not a developer and lack a lot of the insight regarding development, I might actually not cover it at all. Because usually when I talk about these things, I don't need any development insight, since I cover those topics from a consumer perspective. And if you expect your average consumer to be well versed in the art of making video games in order to make demands of any kind when it comes to what they do and don't want to spend their money on, then you are outright insane. Before you think I derailed from the original topic too much, I also believe that the same thing applies for the question of whether or not Torbjorn is going to be broken based on what we see on the PTR. Can't say it often enough. I'm not an analyst or pro player or whatever else that we like to imagine qualifies somebody to talk about these sorts of things. But since the forums have already caught onto the subject, I decided to weigh in on the discussion. But rather than spouting balance-related half-knowledge, I wanted to tackle this topic from a perspective that I feel more comfortable dealing with. Community management. Which means that I want to talk to you guys directly about your fears and worries and differentiate between some things that warrant differentiating. Now let's address the elephant in the room. At this point in time, it really looks like Torbjorn is becoming the new Mercy. At least when we talk about the point in time where Mercy got Valkyrie added as an ultimate ability. Last Friday, I uploaded this massive video covering the history of Mercy in competitive play, and we went through each and every single relevant patch note to see where Mercy as a hero came from. What Mercy and Torbjorn have in common is their type of ultimate. It's an ultimate that turns them into a better version of the original hero. And that is already a very dangerous thing to do, because in games that feature ultimate abilities of some kind, simply enhancing all your values is one of the more lazy things you can do. But in addition to that, depending on their kit, you could make it so that hero is a very undesirable choice outside of their ultimate. Remember when people thought that Zarya was useless outside of using Graviton Surge? Heck, just the other day in competitive play I had to convince a teammate of mine to run Zarya over Roadhog because he thought that with 1 minute left on the clock it didn't make any sense to go for Zarya. When in reality, it wasn't about her ultimate. To us, it was about the level of survivability that she added to our comp by using her bubbles. And yes, said composition was GOATs and we ended up winning, and yes, I did feel a little dirty. But hey, not like the enemies didn't try to abuse it. Now, since the devs are replacing the OG Molten Core with a new area of effectability, that problem seems to be solved. Torbjorn no longer feels kind of lackluster outside of using his ultimate, but we all know the issues that can arise when you turn an ultimate ability into a regular ability on cooldown. However, we also have to differentiate between the kinds of ultimates that both of these characters had originally, because Mercy was changed to Valkyrie, which was a simple enhancement of all of her abilities, and then Resurrection was moved to a regular cooldown. Torbjorn, on the other hand, gets his enhancement ultimate moved onto a regular cooldown slot while being granted a unique area of effect ultimate. So it's not exactly apples to apples in the sense of claiming immediate problems to occur based on moving ultimates to a regular ability slot. Again, referencing the video on the history of Mercy, the devs mentioned on multiple occasions that Resurrect was one of the most powerful abilities in the game, which is why moving it to a regular ability slot caused problems for such a long time until it was properly balanced. But the same thing can't be said for Molten Core. However, we can reference the broken state that Valkyrie itself was in when it was originally added to Mercy's kit. For some reason that we mere mortals will never be able to comprehend, Blizzard feels the need to stuff all the buffs into the hero they can at once rather than buffing them bit by bit until they feel right. And if all your abilities work in tandem, I can understand that. But there was no reason to give Valkyrie AoE healing, instant reses, infinite ammo, unlimited mobility and Mach 3 Guardian Angel speed at the same time. These things could have been tweaked more deliberately. And now look at the OG Molten Core. It's essentially that same thing. If you give a flat out enhancement on cooldown to a character, you really have to watch out with how much better this ability makes them, because we might end up in the same situation as before, where outside of being able to use that ability, the character just feels lackluster, and while using it, they might even feel OP. And if we take all these things into consideration, then yes, the new Overload ability that represents Torbjorn's OG Molten Core on cooldown looks very scary, because it does exactly that. It flat out makes Torbjorn a better version of Torbjorn. I mean, hell, we can even draw a parallel to Hanzo and his extremely annoying storm arrows, where on a cooldown basis, Hanzo just becomes a way more reliable and dangerous version of himself. And if Overload is the Torbjorn equivalent of that, then we could be looking at a very annoying new mechanic to deal with. Though, it is worth noting that all this does not change Torbjorn's borderline broken hitbox that makes it harder to body shot him than landing a headshot. But that's where we have to draw the line and ask ourselves, is it broken? Or is it just annoying? Even today, Valkyrie is just a very annoying ultimate to deal with. Mobility-based abilities always mess with the netcode anyway, and adding a slim hitbox to that is not helping, not to mention the added regen. But that does not necessarily make it a broken ability, it's not overpowered anymore. So what is Torbjorn gonna be then? Is it gonna be an eye roller of, god damn it, now I gotta put some more effort into taking him out? Or is it gonna be a keyboard flipper of, why in God's name did Jeff Kaplan think that this ability was a good idea? Because obviously Jeff Kaplan makes every decision relevant to Overwatch as a franchise. It's not like there's an entire team behind the game or anything. And that is really the point I was trying to make in today's video. Once these changes make it to the live servers and we finally get a good look at how strong they are in a coordinated environment, we can start judging their impact on the game. But please, try not to lightheartedly call each and everything that you don't like broken. Because honestly, just yelling that everything is broken is probably one of the less helpful things you can do. I mean, if your goal is to have these things fixed, then just calling them broken does not add any information or context the development team can use to start making adjustments. So rather than crying on the forums, try to explain why you don't like certain things. And that goes for anything, not just Torbjorn. And don't forget, something does not need to be broken for you to not like it. Even if you just find it annoying and unfun, those are valid complaints to make. So yeah, long video short, yes, you have reason to be worried. When talking about anecdotes and the way previous hero changes went, nobody can blame us for being skeptical. But judging whether or not something is broken is really tough when said thing is not placed in an environment that is reminiscent of actual live gameplay. Don't forget how few people even do testing on the PTR and how most of the people just really don't care. So when the time comes, make sure you don't shoehorn everything into the broken drawer and instead formulate your criticism in a manner that the development team can use. And since they told us that quality of life improvements and balance changes are their big focus right now, I am actually hopeful that we're not gonna have another Valkyrie type situation where a broken hero terrorizes the ladder for months and months to come. By the way, a lot of people also really don't think outside the box. They put the new changes against the current meta in a way that completely ignores a truckload of factors, like the Torbjorn's teammates for example, or how proficient each player is at the hero in question, even how much of an impact that's gonna have on which rank. So don't immediately fall for the popular threads where people like to declare that something is over or even underpowered based on a few hours of PTR testing. If you can, try it out for yourself and see how you feel about it. But the real picture is really formed on the live servers and in pro play, as that is where a lot of ranked players get their ideas from. At any rate, this is already it from me here today as I talk about the upcoming Torbjorn 2.0. What are your thoughts on the matter? Already set on thinking he's broken, or do you consider yourself a wait and see kind of person? Feel free to sound off down in the comment section below. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and maybe share this video with a friend you think will find it interesting. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.